welcome to a special podcast that delves into the lending landscape of India. Join the discussion between Lentra's CEO D. Venkatesh and Sreyysha George, partner and MD BCG, as they unravel the intersection of credit solutions and advanced technologies driving economic growth.
Fintechs are playing a big role. We see it from the outside, we see it within the banks. What do you think has changed? How has the fintech and the banking collaborations changed over time?
Banks were wary of fintechs when we started our journey 6-7 years ago. After the initial incubation and the formation of Lentra, we've seen that the banks are very eager to collaborate, experiment, and move ahead with solutions that we have to offer. As with all banks, they're highly risk averse, and that makes the timeline stretch beyond the initial estimates that most fintechs have in their plans. So the fintechs that can't survive the long term and survive the stretched timelines don't cut it, and the ones that do end up servicing the banks.
So speed has become one of the pivotal changes?
Indirectly, yes.
Got it. I think, DV, maybe a thought, and many of us have been seeing fintechs in the market come about. But what is the innovation? Right? What is different? There's a lot of fintechs in the market. What is different now?
Time to market is the key for most banks. They know what they want to do. Unfortunately, banks are structured in a manner that they can't do it in-house and they can't do it themselves. Given the choice, that would be the best approach for banks. So they rely on fintechs to get it right the first time and enable the bank to go to market with the product innovations that the banks want as fast and as reliably as possible. So the fintechs that have innovated at scale and with great reliability as the underlying foundation have done well, and that is continuing to fuel our own growth.
Right. But when it comes to lending growth, I think, challenges galore. How can the lending growth story truly come alive?
I think India is really blessed, and we are the top dog, I think, worldwide with 200 countries. This is the only space where we are number one in the world. We're very lucky that the government put in an infrastructure that's free for our use with UID, UPI, all of the components that build the India stack, Sahmati now, ONDC, OCEN. I mean, the list goes on, and the regulator along with the government are jointly innovating through various mechanisms to open up the market for financial innovation. The market is driving the innovation, and the banks know what they want to do, but the gaps are getting closed much faster with this fairly large infrastructure being open to everyone's use, and that has really fueled the fintech revolution or the transformation in India. And as time goes along, the regulator is also working on standardizing some of the key aspects. The two very, very large aspects are cleansing of data. The data that's available in India is very, very low priced. So the government is opening up several data sources, but the quality of data has to improve, and I'm sure they're working on that. The second piece is for them to fix a mechanism for ID&V, which is identity and verification mechanisms. We are a growing country, and we don't have the, and it's an extraordinary population. We are number one in the world on the population front also. So that makes it a double-edged sword. So we have to fix our KYC norms and we have to cleanse the data. If these two can be done in addition to what we have done already, which is phenomenal, I think we will open the doors up for getting to that 7 in 7. I mean, 7 trillion in 7 years is what the central government has, the boss has spoken. That's a 10% growth year on year. It's an impossible task in my opinion, but if we get even close to that, we would have added a Netherlands year on year. So it's that big a growth. And I picked on the Dutch because at one time, not too long ago in history, they were set to rule the world. So that's
Got it. Adding a Netherlands year on year. I think that's a good one to take. I think when we started, we heard quite a bit of discussion around what Lentra does. Maybe a bit more specifically, what's different, and maybe an example for the audience where, you were able to introduce an innovation into the sector.
Yeah, so when we started 4.5 years ago, the agenda and the vision was extraordinarily clear for us. We set out to build a platform for assets to enable and empower the banks to do their business. We never wanted to get into lending ourselves. So we are a technology solution provider, but the vision statement that I had 5 years ago when we seeded the company and 4.5 years ago when we launched the company was that we would build all the software solutions that are required for banks to do their assets business or the advances business or the loans business. And in that approach, we decided that we would have a modular approach to all the pieces, that we would not build a platform from left to right and force the bank to use all of it at once. That was not going to happen. So what we did was we built the whole set as a jigsaw of modules that the banks would choose where to come in and where to exit and what pieces to piece together and use. So that's one of the big things that we did differently. We also moved to a consumption-led pricing model, and that's worked well for us to gain an easy entry into some banks who want to try. If it works, then buy, while minimizing the risk of how much of money will go out in the whole process. So that is the second piece that we did. And in doing so, we focused that we could then build all the pieces and assemble a flow or a set of journeys for the bank in double quick time. So time to market was the focus for us to have all the pieces ready before launching. And one of the big examples of that success was when we got a call in, I remember this was in early August, from one of the large banks in the country. They wanted to launch a cattle loan. I hadn't even heard of a cattle loan. So they said, this is the cattle loan journey and we want to go to market in less than 2 months. And there was some pressure from the regulator to get this done. So we thought this was a very esoteric product because I didn't imagine that the cattle loan would be a real product. But we assembled it and then we tried it. We put it into production in under 8 weeks. And surprisingly, that journey was demonstrated live in the G20 summit 2 months, 3 months ago. I don't remember, but not too long ago, the G20 summit, this product went live and our name came up on the webcast. And I was so stunned that this is what they were up to. But assembling a journey and getting it to production in 8 weeks is reasonably transformative for banks. We haven't succeeded on all fronts, but it's work in progress, but that's the direction we are on.
Got it. And is there something that, on the other side, when the banks partner with you, allows you to bring the speed to life?
Sorry?
So the speed point that you made, 8 weeks to go to market with a new product seems quite unheard of in most products that we see. So what on the other side does the banking partner have to do to facilitate this?
We don't demand too much of the banks. We let the banks be the way they are because any change within the bank just delays all the projects. A, a bank is a very complex organization. People tend to underestimate the complexity. Even if the CEO wants something done, it can't be done rapidly. They are built in a manner that they will avoid risks, even internal risks. So the structure in banks do not allow them to move very, very rapidly. So what we have done is we have constructed all of our technology solutions on the outside. So we stay outside the perimeter of the bank, and we give the bank the option of moving the solution into their perimeter at a later date. So one of the big steps that we did was we are fully compliant, accredited, certified, and audited by several agencies. So we give them the confidence that the data is safe, and it is, and that they can get to doing their business immediately.
Got it. And I think, DV, touching on that point, there's a lot of collaboration in the industry that is starting to happen. What more can be done to really make sure that we thrive as a ecosystem over the next couple of years?
Oh, that's been one of the cornerstones of our journey so far. I strongly believed, and I continue to believe, that collaboration is the only way to solve the entire jigsaw. It's so complicated that when the bank implements solution one from vendor one, if you can't coexist, you're done. You will not even be considered. So on day one, I took inspiration from one of the big wallet companies. They had gone and free of charge, they had gone and collaborated and pieced together all the utilities in the country. So you could pay a utility bill off that wallet in about 5-6 years ago. So that inspired me to say that we should be in the ecosystem, wired in completely and fully tested with every other partner that exists, irrespective of whether the partner is a competitor or a collaborator eventually. But all competitors and all ecosystem players are collaborators as far as Lentra is concerned. And once that happens, then our platform is wired with every ecosystem player that exists, and banks find it easy that way to just consume whoever they choose to consume off, but work on our platform. So
great. No, that's good to hear. And I think, DV, maybe to finish off, one thing we've been discussing a lot is India for the world. We are the best when it comes to some of the technology, the infrastructure. What role are you thinking for Lentra? We've quite successful here. What does it mean for supporting the world in terms of digitization of banking?
We'll move with the India government initiative of introducing all the components that the government has built for our use here. And as and when the opportunity opens up, we are testing the waters in those emerging countries.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time.